Hello everybody, welcome to Totally Tabled. My name is Shaggy, and today I'm doing a full solo playthrough of Star Wars Outer Rim with the Unfinished Business expansion. We are going to be tooling around the galaxy, delivering cargo, completing jobs, and hunting down and capturing or maybe even killing bounties. Earning credits to buy better gear and mods for our spaceships, even buying new spaceships. Engaging in space combat, and all around just having incredible adventures, trying to become famous and trying to complete our life's ambition. This is going to be an adventure that you're not going to want to miss, so stay tuned. To set up the game, you want to put out the map as shown in the rulebook. There is a variant where you can mix up the pieces, but that is not recommended for your first game. You want to replace the in-cap pieces with the new ones that are in the expansion. These are now the core world, and you'll be able to travel between the two sides. You want to set up the patrols just as you would in the base game, stacking them in order based on the dots on the back, and putting one of each of them out. You then want to separate out all the contact tokens by the color on their backs, including the new orange ones that come with the expansion. Shuffle them up, and then put them out in their corresponding spaces. The orange contact tokens go on the planets themselves, but not the two core worlds. You want to put out all the different decks of cards, shuffle them all up except for the data bank cards. Those you want to keep in numerical order. You want to pick a character for your AI opponent. On her card, it shows that we need to take the setup card number 92 from the databank, as well as give her a positive reputation with the Imperials. There are 4 different numbered 92s, so you just take a random one of those. In this case, we got heavy hitters. This is a job, so it'll go into her job or bounty slot, and it shows that her starting planet is Tatooine. You want to set up her AI deck by taking her card, as well as AI cards 1, 2, 6, 7, and 9. Shuffle those up, that's going to be the AI deck. Give your AI opponent the starting ship, the G9 Rigger. Keep in mind that if you had selected a bounty hunter for the AI, you would have a slightly different setup. Now we get to select our character, and I've chosen Jyn Erso. She also takes a starting number 92 databank card. We got the job Pirate Trouble. We start on the planet Ord Montel, and she starts with a negative Imperial reputation. We're going to be playing with the optional Ambitions module. So we're going to take all of the ambition cards, shuffle them up, draw 2, and then select 1. Our ambition could either be to be the galaxy's most feared, or to be a galactic explorer. And for this play, I think I want to try to be a galactic explorer. At the top, it says that we're going to start with 6,000 credits. I've decided to also start with the G9 Rigger and a crew member, hired help. Our AI opponent also starts with 6,000 credits. We then want to set up the market decks, and when you're playing a solo game, you want to remove the following cards: Honest Robbery, Disable Comms Network, Sail Barrage Sabotage, and Snatch and Grab. You also want to remove card 11 from the Takadana Encounter deck. Turn the top card of each market deck face up, and there we go. That is setup complete. We are ready to begin the game. In order to win the game, I'm going to need to get 8 fame, as well as complete my life's ambition, which in this case is to become a galactic explorer. And that's actually quite simple. It just means I'm going to need to collect 1 of each of the 8 encounter cards. And to do that, it just means I'm going to need to go throughout the galaxy, flying from planet to planet, having encounters. Once I've done that, and I have 8 fame, I can then go to either of the 2 core worlds, either the Spinward core or the trailing core. I can have an encounter, and then I'm going to be testing my knowledge and my influence. And if I pass both of those tests, then I win the game. I'll explain how tests work in a little bit. Our AI opponent doesn't have ambition, so instead they just have to get 2 extra fame. So they're going to win the game by getting to 10 fame. Well, how do we get fame? Well, there's lots of different ways. One way is by completing jobs, and we have a job here, Pirate Trouble. This job says that we can go to Nal Hutta, test piloting, and if we succeed, we complete the job, we'll get 4,000 credits and 1 fame. Another way we can get fame is by completing our personal goal, and if you can see here, Jin Urso's personal goal actually piggybacks nicely with our Galactic Explorer life ambition. Our personal goal is to go to the 2 Imperial planets, Lothal and Naboo. As an action, we can test stealth there, and if we succeed, we can put down a little marker. And once we've done that for each planet, we've completed our personal goal, we'll get a fame, and we'll get to flip her card to the other side, where we'll get a unique special ability. So that gives us some clear goals that we can do here in the short term to get a little bit of fame. So let's get started. Let's just jump right in. The first thing you do on your turn is the planning phase. You decide whether you want to move or to not move. And if you don't move, you get to choose between either taking 2,000 credits or healing all of your damage. In this case, we actually don't want to move. We want to do an encounter on this planet, so we're going to stay still. And because we have no damage, we'll take the money. We now have 8,000 credits. The next part of your turn is the action phase. You're mainly going to do 2 things. One is you're going to take a market action. And then you're also going to deliver any cargo or bounties that you might have for the planet that you're on. In this case, we don't have any of that, so we're just going to take a market action. The first thing you can do on your market action is select one of these decks, and you can, if you want, cycle. That just means taking the top face-up card, putting it to the bottom of the deck, and turning the top card face-up. And you can do that twice if you want. I want to cycle this deck right here, because if you can see there, there's some cargo that needs to go all the way to the trailing core. Well, I don't plan to go that way for quite a while, so I'd like to get some cargo for somewhere a little bit closer. Now this is better, these food supplies. These need to go to Nal Hutta, which is where we're going for our pirate trouble, so this might be something that we want to buy. So I'm going to stop cycling. I could have cycled one more time if I wanted to. But keep in mind, if you're going to do a second cycle, it has to be from the same deck. You can't split up your cycles. Now I can buy one of these cards. And it can be from any deck. I don't have to buy from the deck that I just cycled. The cost is in the top right. So you can see here we have 2 jobs, but this one costs 10,000 to take, whereas this one's free. We also have a ship here that we could buy. We can replace the ship that we have, but that costs 15,000 credits, so we can't afford an aggressor-class assault fighter just yet. These food supplies cost 1,000 to take, but once we deliver it, we'll make 5,000 credits and gain a Hutt reputation, which could be very useful. There's also a bounty here for some guy you might have heard of, Han Solo. He's way too powerful for us to take on, so we're not going to worry about that. And then we have a piece of gear here. You have 2 slots for gear that will help your character if they get mostly in like land combat. In this case, this is a piece of armor that will help. You can see these 2 stats here. You have their attack strength and their health. So that could be useful, but I think I'm really liking these food supplies. So I am going to purchase that, spend the 1,000 credits, and this cargo is going to go into our cargo slot right here. As you can see here in our rigger, we only have 1 spot for cargo. We also only have 1 spot for some mods and 1 spot for crew. But as you get bigger and better ships, you'll have more slots for things. Okay, after we purchase a card, we need to flip the deck so there's something face up. And this is where we look at this part of the card down here. There'll be some different actions that take place. It may, for instance, move some of these patrol ships towards us. But in this case, it's just saying that if you're in a 1 to 4 player game, you can flip a contact that's on the planet where you're on. And here we are right here. And as you can see here, we have this orange contact, but we also have these 2, this yellow and this white. So we get to flip this face up to see who it is. Well, look at that. It's another person you may have heard of, Chewbacca. You're only going to resolve that when you purchase a card from the market. That's the only time when that comes into play. Okay, and now we're going to do the final phase of our turn, which is the encounter phase. Now we're going to have one encounter, and we get a couple of different choices. If we had a job, we could do that as our encounter. Or we could choose to encounter one of these contact tokens that are on the planet. Either the face-up one, or we could flip one of the face-down ones. Or we can choose to have an encounter on the planet, in which case we would flip over the card that corresponds to the planet. Every card has 2 planets that it corresponds to. The backs of these encounter cards show what you can expect to find on those planets. So in this case, we can expect to find gear and maybe some opportunities to earn some more credits. Encountering these cards is also important for our galactic explorer ambition. We're going to need to have 8 encounters and collect each one of these 8 cards. And so that's what I want to do. Before we start flying away from this system, I want to have an encounter on this planet so I can collect this card. It says, they left you alone in their warehouse, unsupervised. What did they think would happen? You may lose 1 syndicate reputation to buy the top card of the wrench market deck for free. Ooh, interesting. Well, that's a bit of armor, and we have 2 slots for gear. As you can see here, this is our reputation track, and we start neutral, but because we're Jyn Erso, we actually started with a negative Imperial reputation. This reputation can come into play depending on the different events on the different planets. You can see the planets show like who is sort of in charge of that planet. Having positive reputation with that faction will be useful. It also can come into play with these patrols. As these patrols wander around, having negative reputation with that faction means those patrols are going to come after you and attack you. So it's not great to have negative reputation, but in this case, I think this is worth it. So we will have a negative reputation with the Syndicate in order to get this Bounty Hunter helmet for free. So that's giving us a little bit extra health here. So we now have 5 instead of 4. And during ground combat, we're going to suffer 1 fewer damage. Very cool. And because of our ambition, anytime we would discard one of these cards, normally you would just discard this to the bottom of the deck. But in our case, anytime we were going to discard one of these, and it's one that we don't already have, we keep it. Just to keep track of the fact that we've visited all these different places. So I'm just going to store these over here for now. We've picked up our first of 8 encounter cards for our Galactic Explorer ambition. And now because I gained an item from the market, we have to flip it, face up, and resolve this. You're going to resolve this event anytime you buy a card from a market or you gain a card from the market. You don't resolve it if you're just discarding a card from the market. In this case, it shows an Imperial icon and the number 3. That means that the Imperial patrol ship is going to move 3 spaces towards me. Well, it's way over here, so it just goes 1, 2, 3 towards me. It cannot go through these core worlds. And that's it. That is the end of our turn. Okay, it's now Dr. Afra's turn. We simply draw the top card from the AI deck, and we go through and resolve each phase. So for the planning step, it says do the first that applies. A, if defeated, recover all damage. Well, the AI hasn't taken any damage, so we skip that. B, move towards the closest goal. Okay, so this is what she's going to do. Now, generally, the AI is going to ignore their special ability, and they're also going to ignore their personal goal. They're not going after that. Instead, they're trying to complete the goals on their cargo and their bounties and their jobs. And so in this case, Dr. Afra has a job that takes place on Takodana. And And in fact, we can put a little token on the planet to show that that's where her goal is. And so in this case, she's going to move. She's going to make a beeline for that planet and try to get there as soon as she can. Her rigger has 6 speed. You can see the ship stats here. The top one is speed. The second one is attack power. And the third is hull. Well, she's going to use her 6 speed to try to get to the planet. Now, as you can see here, on her 5th move, she encountered a patrol. Now, just like a normal player, the AI has to stop their movement if they enter a space with a patrol of a faction that they either have neutral reputation or negative reputation. But if you have positive reputation, then you don't have to stop. That's an Imperial patrol, and she has positive reputation with them, so she can continue on. Now, that 6 movement is going to put her 1 step away from the planet, so she can't quite make it there. And ideally, the AI wants to stop on a planet. So if moving 1 fewer space or 2 fewer spaces would mean that she would end up on a planet, then she's going to choose to do that. So in this case, she's going to stop on that planet and end her movement there. We're now going to go on to the action step, and it shows here, do all that apply. If at a cargo destination, deliver it. Well, they don't have cargo, so we can skip that. And the second thing is buy a ship. So they want to buy a new ship. But as you can see here, on top of this deck, the ship costs 15,000 credits and they only have 6. So just like a human player would do, they're going to cycle until they can find a ship that meets 2 criteria. 1 is something that they can afford, and 2 is more expensive than the ship that they already have. In this case, they just have the starter ship, which costs 0, so they're really looking for a $5,000 ship. And they can do 2 cycles just like we could. So let's see what they get. Well, nope, that's a $20,000 ship, so they're going to do their 2nd cycle. And there you go. This GX1 short hauler costs $5,000. They can afford it. It's more expensive than the ship that they have, so they're going to purchase that. So we're going to go into the deck of ships. We're going to find it. This is just going to go out of the game. Here it is, the GX1 short hauler. So this rigger will just go away, and they'll get this one. Spend their 5,000. Now, just like their personal goal, the AI doesn't care about the ship goal. So we can ignore that. We'll flip this over. But when you buy a ship, there's no event that happens, so we can move on. And now we have the AI's encounter phase. And it says, do the first that applies. So if they had had a negative reputation matching a patrol in their space, then they would encounter that patrol. And that's true of a human player as well. If you have a negative reputation with a ship, with a patrol ship, then you have to fight it. But they have a positive reputation in this case, so they don't have to do that. If they were at a job destination, they would complete their job, but they're not. So instead, they're going to do this last thing, gain 4,000 credits, then lose 1 reputation with this planet's faction, if any. Well, in this case, the planet doesn't have a faction associated with it, so they don't have to lose a reputation. And that's their turn. You take their card, you put it at the bottom of their AI deck, and that's that. Okay, it's our turn, and we want to move, but we're not going far. We're just going to go over here to Lothal. And that's our entire planning phase. Now for our action phase, we want to do a market action, and I want to cycle these jobs because this Imperial job here, Imperial favor, that's not really our cup of tea. We don't love the Imperial. Okay, well this is a job that takes place in the Spinward Core. We're not really going that way, so we're going to cycle a 2nd time. And it's more hired help. Okay, well we already have some hired help, and we don't have room for more crew, so that's really not going to help us at the moment. We could buy this mod. That would give us 1 extra cannon onto our rigger. Not all that interested in that, really. We can't afford that job there. That costs 10,000 just to even do. Maybe we will buy these quad laser cannons. Yeah, okay, we will. We'll spend the 2,000 credits and we'll grab that. We have one slot for mods there. Okay, it looks like the Rebel Patrol is going to be moving 3 towards us. 1, 2, 3. And then we can flip a contact. Of our choice. Yeah, let's see who the white contact is there. It's a Lobot. We want to do a little bit of sabotage, because if you look here, as an action, if we're on an Imperial planet, we can test our stealth, and if we pass, we'll put a damage token on the planet. And once we have a damage token on both this planet and Naboo, then we've achieved our personal goal. That'll give us 1 fame, we'll flip the card, and we'll get a special ability. So let's learn about how we do a skill test. We're gonna roll 2 of these d8s. And depending on how good we are at that particular skill, these different symbols are gonna count as successes. So down here on the card, it shows us what we're skilled at. In the case of Jyn Erso, it's influence and tactics. Now our crew will also have different skills that they are good at. In this case, the only crew that we have is this hired help, which before we perform a skill test, we can gain a skill of our choice for the test, and if we pass, then we lose this hired help. Now in this case, we are testing stealth, and we don't have that, which means we are unskilled. And that means that in order to succeed in this roll, we need to get a crit symbol. Only the crit symbol will count as a success. If we had 1 instance of stealth amongst either our main character or our crew, then we would be pretty skilled, and the crit symbol and this basic hit symbol would count as a success. If we have 2 instances of that skill, then we are highly skilled at that particular activity, and now, in addition, the eyeballs will also count as a success. So right now, we're rolling, and we're going to need to get a crit symbol, unless we use our hired help. But we have another special ability, which is once per turn during combat or a skill test, we may turn one of our eyeballs into a crit. So in this case, if we roll an eyeball, then that will also count as a success, because we can switch it into a crit. So I say, let's not use our hired help for this. Let's just roll, and as long as we get either a crit symbol or an eyeball, we'll be fine. Okay, there we go. We actually failed. We should have used our hired help, because if we had used our hired help, that would have counted, but we didn't. So we failed, so nothing happens. We don't get to put the thing on. So that actually wasn't our encounter. That was just an action that we got to do because we were on the planet. So now we get to do our encounter. I tell you what, why don't we encounter that green token? So let's see who we found. Okay, we found Boshek. So what you do is you look at that number 6. We're going to go through the data bank and we're going to find that card. And we're going to resolve it. Don't say smuggler, says the Carillion. I prefer freelance pilot for hire. Speaking of, are you hiring? You may spend 2,000 credits to gain the crew below and discard Boshek's token. Okay, so we could gain him as a crew member. Now, we don't have room for him right now, but we could replace him with our hired help. But let's see if we want to do that. So his special ability has piloting as a skill, and it says if you do not roll a hit when delivering illegal cargo, you may re-roll your die. Okay, well, I don't think that that's particularly useful for us, so I am not going to hire him this time around. And there we go. That's actually the end of our turn.